Good morning, everybody. Where I come from in Australia, we start events like this by just taking a moment to consider the traditional owners of this land. So thank you to the traditional owners and their ancestors for allowing us to be here and to be part of this land. I'm going to introduce you to something I haven't actually spoken about in public before, that I was asked to and invited to come back to Canada to talk about. So thank you to the CHTA and all of its members and all of you for coming here to listen. Now, I couldn't start this talk. I couldn't start it, I'm sorry, without a comment on the recent US elections. Our friends over the border voted for Donald Trump. Now, does this mean he has a positive social license? Well, maybe we will find out in this talk. But for some honest reflection, I wanted to quote one of my favorite philosophers of this time, Charles Eisenstein. When any of us meet someone who rejects dominant norms and values, we feel a little less crazy for doing the same. Any act of rebellion or non-participation, even on a very small scale, is therefore a political act. So may we trust our intuition and be guided by love in these transitional times. Now, like all great ideas that you and I may have, it is always dependent on others' beliefs, whether they are coming from and opinions created from previous experience. Ken Wilber wrote, "I have one major rule. Everybody is right. More specifically, everybody, including me, has some important pieces of truth." I have to remember this when thinking of Donald Trump. And all of those pieces need to be honored, cherished, and included in a more gracious, spacious, and compassionate embrace. Muhammad Yunus is a Bengali professor who developed another great idea called microcredit. Also created the social business concept, which is based on the concept that life is more than about money and human beings are multidimensional. It addresses community concerns through business. One of the many definitions for social license is existing when a project has the ongoing approval within the local community and other stakeholders, ongoing approval or broad social acceptance, and most frequently as ongoing acceptance. Social license is one of the many intangibles in our society. It is often not related to financial outcome or other regular measurable metrics, unless you live in Bhutan, for example, where happiness is an official federal measurement of the state of the country. There are various levels of social license. The lowest level of success is that in which it is sufficient to allow a project to proceed and enjoy a quiet relationship with its neighbors. This is often the goal of many suburban folk. A higher level is when your situation is best beneficial for all concerned. Can you imagine a situation where something is created by an individual or collective for the benefit of all? Ultimately, we act as co-owners, co-defending collective identity, such as the actions of us all here at the CHTA, or the visitors to a sports game. Is acceptance a merit on your social license? Now, let's not get confused with approval. Often we choose to accept a reality without truly approving it. And is cooperation enough? If you are not sure, then wait until you have an emergency or you need to step away from your team for a while. Then you will find out if you have a cooperation or trust. Having teams on every continent of our beautiful planet ensures I personally have an opportunity to remember this wherever I am. And I am very grateful. And just because you can technically do the job, it doesn't necessarily give you any social credibility. This takes our work to another level. An easy example is on Australian mining companies who are technically extremely competent but have very low social license. By paying higher than average remuneration to their employees buys some level of cooperation for the time being. What do we need to wait for to realize that the change is upon us and that change is our personal choice? When the reason for being becomes greater than the survival, profit, or even complacency. For me, an original inspiration to not follow the pack was a knowledge that although we accept modern medicine, often cooperate with it, and cannot often fault its scientific proof, there is very little trust from my side in terms of the ability to believe in this form of medicine for little more than diagnostics or hospital-type surgeries. These issues have brought us to a tipping point. The tipping point is that magic moment when an idea, trend, or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips, and spreads like wildfire. Is hemp in this situation? Since I was 17, my preferred way of creating social license has been my goal. Although not totally realized yet, I feel that these ideas seem to be more common in my circles of business partners, from farmers, scientists, technicians, and creative people. We all seem to be waking up to some form of social collaboration. It is the often unsaid glue that keeps our community together. Hemp is, of course, at the forefront of my vision. In a movie from 2014, the issue of cannabis plant and many of its social implications were discussed. If you haven't seen this yet, maybe because of the not ideal title, I recommend downloading this movie. Oops, I'll try and play for you.
Whenever we hear the word war on anything, I think it should alert our antenna.
But what is meant by war on drugs? That's a very good question.
The war on marijuana is a symptom of something that's fundamentally wrong in this country.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
The only way marijuana can kill you is you take 25 pounds of it and you throw it out of a CIA drug plane and it hits you in the head. That's how you die from marijuana.
We have to break out of the fog because the media won't do anything. No president's going to come in and change things.
You're supposed to question authority as a journalist. That's the whole point of the media.
Tell another grown human being. Oh, not allowed that. A grown man.
It's not rational or logical, it's financial.
It's interesting when you look at the amount of money that these drugs are generating. Where does that money go? And who's handling it?
The entire underpinnings of the war on drugs are being pulled away.
And what we see now is this culture struggling to make an accommodation for this new kid on the block.
So this movie is a lot more about the social perspective and less about cannabis than it may appear there, and I highly recommend it. On my personal journey, though, I learned that from a technical perspective, again, essential fatty acids, as found in hemp, are required for human health. My vision includes a world where products for our skin are closer to gourmet foods than a list of ingredients that we cannot pronounce or synthetically made from petrochemicals. A world where we treat our skin as a way to feed ourselves with medicinal herbs and feed ourselves with raw, organic, and socially produced hemp, seeds, oil, protein, flour, and all the numerous food products that these may be turned into. And I sure needed a social license to do this in Australia, where the technical ability to sell hemp as a food is actually still not legal. Yes, the latest updates we had expected that hemp was going to be allowed for human consumption in Australia in December have yet again been delayed, and because of affecting drug tests. So in Australia, medical cannabis has become legalized before hemp as a food. So despite that, my company, Hemp Foods Australia, is still the #1 hemp foods manufacturer in the Southern Hemisphere and continues to grow fast. I believe one of the reasons for this is that the company is built upon the strong foundations of the social license that we build with others in our community. And it still excites me, also, at the thought of living in a hemp house and driving a hemp car run by a supercapacitor graphene battery made of hemp. One of my passions that I started in the mid-90s was to follow on from Henry Ford's idea to create car bodies from hemp. This has evolved to 3D printable hemp filaments that I look forward to hearing more about the Canadian updates in the next 2 talks, as well as various grades of hemp plastics that can not only be 3D printed, but injection molded, blow molded, and made even translucent these days. Very soon, we expect the world's first 100% biodegradable hemp plastic bag and hemp water bottle, after 20 years of trying. But possibly one of the biggest changes in recent years has been the news that cannabis, marijuana, hemp, whatever your preferred term is, actually being used to fight various diseases and symptoms that the otherwise technically advanced modern medicine companies cannot seem to assist with. The buy-in from a growing community of humans is massive, not least of which is because many hundreds and thousands of people now using non-psychoactive or even psychoactive cannabis products to help young children, the elderly, the sports people, the traumatized. In fact, the social license for medical cannabis is so very widespread that even, shock horror, a majority of our community and conservative politicians are turning to support the use of such products, as we have just seen recently in the US states. Even Australia, as I said before, has allowed medical cannabis before it has allowed hemp foods. Elixirol's new rescue balm that is being launched today in Las Vegas is one of those products our community has requested. Elixirol has turned up its technical ability by learning how to improve basic cannabinoid extracts into direct, targeted, safe, predictable, water-soluble, whole plant compounds, so that we may continue to ride this wave of growing social license for our plant cannabis sativa. Now, on a side note, even what we call our plant, cannabis sativa, requires social license. Is this medical cannabis, hemp, whole plant extract, or any of many of the other names that we decide to call it? I have found this to be a significant issue within our lobbying efforts around the world to gain social buy-in. I recommend a working group on this subject alone. But nothing makes me happier than to spend my time growing our team, to deal with the demand created through social license rather than persuading or educating others. And this needs to work for our certified organic hemp crops also. I am humbled and honored by the speed of our growing team, which is now self-replicating on the foundation of this social model. Either for-profit or non-for-profit businesses may have a social license. A relatively new certifying body for the profit-driven companies is B Corp. For those who choose guidance and appreciate independent certification, I hope you enjoy this short video.
We have a dream that one day all companies will compete not only to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. Others share this dream.
Okay, so we may pause that, and I recommend you check out B Corp online, where you can see their video. And if you've got a Mac, it may be a lot easier. I don't know. So as we find new and novel ways to create stronger foundations for our businesses, I strongly recommend that your business, no matter what it is, considers the local community around you. That is the person next to you, that is the person in your local town, it is the person in your state, it is the person in your country, it is the person in the world. There are many different levels of local community. What I recommend is that you share your dream and find out if you have the social license to take it all the way. Here is part of a preview of my dream, in the form of the first in a series of educational cartoons that represents my beliefs on organic farming. Whilst we have a green light, an open road to create environmentally friendly, natural hemp and renewable houses, using 100% hemp plastic for those objects that cannot be made out of readily available earth-based materials. Surrounded by an abundance of naturally growing organic foods, including the vegetable hemp. A freedom of knowledge to read in various forms. Remembering beauty inside and outside is simply a reflection of how we feel and treat ourselves. Stock up your pantries with healthy medicinal foods, and I mean all plant foods, not just hemp. Creating healthy bodies for our next chosen social task, so that we may rest in a natural way, in harmony with those all around us. Please enjoy this first ever showing of a very rough draft of Hemp Man doing his thing. We intend to extend this to numerous stories for the young and old alike, in how we may grow together in harmony with each other and our surrounds. The intention is to build more social license, more appreciation and support from our community so that we may continue doing what we love to do the most. This starts at home, and so this animation starts with a picture of where I live when I'm not traveling.
On the pristine green fields of Byron Bay, Hemp Foods Australia introduces a day in the life of Hemp Man. Always watching hemp grow, Hemp Man is not the only one who loves his treat of delicious creamy old hemp seeds. After a fun day at the farm, Hemp Man drives in his hemp electric car. To his hemp home in the rainforest in Byron Bay, where he grows his own fruit and veggies. At home, Hemp Man likes a good reading, which is where he learned how to grow and build from hemp. He even has 100% hemp plastic musical instruments.
G'day, love. I'm back from the farm.
I'm just in the shower.
Making yourself even more radiant and shining with your CHTA skincare products, I guess. Look, I'm just going to whip me up some healthy tasting soup, smoothie, burger, curry and salad. That's all I need to keep me being a superhero.
Now it's time for Not the Cooking Show. And after a good meal, there is nothing like going to sleep in natural hemp satin bed sheets. Just another day in the life of Hemp Man.
So that's it kind of represents what I believe in a cartoon kind of form. And it's all about connecting with people, communication being a significant part of that. So thank you for your attention. I would like to end by a quote from Janine Benyus from Biomimicry, who wrote, the more our world functions like the natural world, the more likely we are to endure on this home that is ours, but not ours alone. From our teams in Australia, New Zealand, the USA, South Africa, Korea, Japan, Thailand, Myanmar, China, Middle East, UK, Sweden, Finland, Germany, Spain, Italy, France, UK, Ukraine, Romania, Czech Republic, Slovenia, and our teams to come, maybe in Canada, I thank you.